Gassing.
Here.
Bush.
Here.
Chambers.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Gunlaw. Lindsay.
Here.
Steffes.
Here.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, WASB honor roll. Well, you want to take it, please?
Sure. So to recap, for those who may not know, each year the Wisconsin Association of School Boards allows school boards up to 5 businesses to nominate for thanks for just all the good things that they do for our schools. So I think this is our 4th or 5th year of doing this. And the board makes the nominations, and then I fill them out and send them to the state. So this year's are Badger Welding, Midwest Roofing, Orthopedic Institute at Southwest Health, and SSM Health. So we'll go in alphabetical order. Badger Welding of Mineral Point has been a great partner for the welding classes here at Mineral Point High School. When the school installed a new laser cutter, employees helped set it up and provided training with students. They have been wonderful mentors and a great support system for students interested in welding. Congratulations to Badger Welding. Midwest Roofing is here, right? Yep. So Midwest Roofing is a Victory Club donor for the stadium project, the 2nd highest donation level available. Their support was key in helping the fundraising project come to fruition, with the first varsity football game being played on the field at the end of August. Their services were also utilized for a summer roofing project this year at the middle and high school building. Thank you to Midwest Roofing.
Do you want to do this now, or you want to do it at the end?
Let's do it then.
Okay.
Then I'll let you go. Orthopedic Institute at Southwest Health. Mineral Point School District has a fabulous relationship with the Orthopedic Institute at Southwest Health in Platteville. Coaches and students find athletic trainer Brad Baumstad a valuable asset to the district, being knowledgeable, friendly, and diligent with his work. In addition, the Orthopedic Institute at Southwest Health is a championship club donor for the stadium project, the highest donation level available. Their support was key in helping the fundraising project come to fruition. You heard that before. Southwest Health is also welcoming our students interested in science and healthcare to tour their facilities to learn more about these career paths. Also new this past spring was a scholarship available for NPH seniors from Southwest Health. So thank you to the Orthopedic Institute and Southwest Health. And last but not least, SSM Health, formerly Dean, is a championship club donor for the stadium project, the highest donation level available. And I won't read the same sentence again. In addition, the SSM Dean Clinic in Mineral Point is very generous in allowing one of their employees, Dr. Aaron Dunn, to serve as a voluntary sideline physician for football games. Thank you to SSM Health. So if you are a representative from one of those businesses, we'd like to take a picture with our board president and a certificate.
Bring one over there.
Sure, we can do it over here in front of these pictures. We lost our nice line. No. We want to do it separately? We can do it separately. Okay. Here we go. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next. So these businesses will also have their name listed in the State Education Convention Program in January in Milwaukee, which is like 2,000 attendees. So, thank you.
If everybody could just swing by and shake board members' hands for your support, we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yep.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any update on the road? Yep. Any update on the road? I mean, it's completed, correct?
As far as I'm aware.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. No
Great
problem.
craftsmanship.
Anytime. Thank you.
Okay, anybody on the board have communications they want to bring forward at this point?
I didn't need a clarification on our closed session agenda items. Performance evaluation of district employees. Jeff, can you be a little more specific? Seems quite vague as far as why we're going into closed session.
That's to discuss the letter of recommend, Larry.
Okay, so it's,
We had
we're
two
going to closed
requests
session for investigation. Okay.
for, and we have two of the individuals want to talk to the board, so.
Are you going to limit the discussion in closed session? with
Yes.
The board members? So no discussion with board members, anybody, with anybody involved?
We'll discuss it in closed session,
All right. Do you expect any action when we come out of closed session?
not unless the board decides they want to make a motion.
All right. I advise against it only because our attorney is not present.
I've discussed this with the attorney in many occasions, and I will tell you about that in closed session.
All right. Maybe you got to understand, we put a letter out in the paper that the board is not going to discuss any further.
No, that is not on the discussion.
Okay.
That's in the office.
All right. I'm talking about the public statement that went into the paper. And in that public statement, it said the board will no longer be discussing this.
In the public, we will no longer be discussing it, but we do have something we need to discuss in closed session.
All right, so I just want to make sure we got some parameters set for that.
Okay? Is that it?
Yeah. That's all I got.
Okay.
I had
I'm sorry.
a few board members ask me what the status of the school safety and security is for the start of the school year. And I know that's going to be addressed with the update, but I just want to let you know that some community members were interested in how secure are our schools to start the school year. So just looking forward to that update.
And also, there has been a lot of discussion on updating our policies regarding that investigation, and I find it disappointing that that has not been talked about and did not even make the agenda tonight. So that's something that we've got to put up front and center.
I believe Dr. Lindsay's going to call a policy meeting later tonight.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anybody else? Okay. Does anybody sign up, Joelle?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Does anybody in the public like to say anything?
That was fine.
Okay. Move on. Approval of the minutes. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve. And it's a nice meeting.
Would you like to second that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Okay. Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Aye.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Okay, items for information. Building administrator, special ed report.
I asked all the building level administrators to kind of give an update as from the start of the school year. And then I was approached by a couple of staff members who said they'd like to have some students at the high school level talk. So those students are here, so I said I'd let them go first and so that they can leave and go home. Some of them just came from volleyball practice or whatever. So I will turn it over to the high school students.
Okay, first I'd like to apologize for some of the way some of us are dressed. We did just come from volleyball practice, so some of us are in our uniforms still. My name is McKenna Reichling. I'm the senior class president, and this is Zoe Hay, one of our student council representatives, and we're both seniors. The 8 of us are here tonight to give you a brief report on how the beginning of the year is going from a student's perspective.
McKenna and I are addressing the change in the school climate. Mr. Wainwright and the staff worked hard to develop a positive and exciting atmosphere to start off the school year. They've selected the motto, Find Your Purpose, as a goal for all of us to strive towards this year.
Pointer Nation began the first day back with an informative but fun assembly. It created a welcoming atmosphere to show the students what is to come this year. Also, the first week of school, the National Honor Society members greeted students in the morning as they came in. Since this received such a positive feedback, we will be continuing it with different groups each week.
New this year, the student student government will be participating more actively in district board meetings and school policy discussions.
Also, the last 30 minutes of each day have been devoted to students finding their purposes.
The other six students here with us tonight will give a more in-depth explanation of how these activities are developing a more positive atmosphere in our school.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mallory Lindsay and this is Ella Chambers. We're both freshmen this year, and we are here tonight to give you a report on how the kickoff assembly went.
From a freshman perspective, it was really cool how the NHS had greeters outside the doors to welcome us into our first day as high schoolers. It was also cool how there was fun music playing as we entered the gym. It made coming back to school less of a downer.
All the teachers were introduced like a starting lineup, which was funny and helpful to see who is who. Mr. Wainwright addressed the changes in the policy for the year. My older brother, who is a junior, said this was better than previous years because everyone heard the same message at one time.
Another cool part of the assembly was the club spotlight presented by seniors. Each club gave a 30-second explanation and pitch for organization. It was great to hear all of the options.
We then split up by classes to different locations for class meetings. In addition to discussing homecoming, each class had different points to address, like senior yearbook information, student government, junior prom, MacBook rollout, and NHS requirements, to name a few.
We wrapped up the 2-hour morning by coming back to the gym to watch a video the staff made. I hope you all saw it. It was hilarious. The overall consent of the student body is that this is an excellent change to the first day practice and was a great way to kick off a positive year.
Hey school board members, I'm Colton Wilson, a senior class student council representative. With me is Ben Basting, our junior class secretary treasurer. Ben and I are here today to talk with you about how our government has had positive change. In previous years, we had the class officers and the student council representatives. There's pretty much just titles. We didn't really have much affiliation with the government. This year, they're now compiled of the class officers, student council representatives, the Blue Crew president, and a pet band representative. Previously, they all worked independently as their own entities. This year, we feel as them working together gives a larger student perspective. Thank you.
We'll be meeting once a month to discuss and organize events. This will also be a time that student concerns may be voiced and addressed. Our hope is to send different members once a month to make a report and also answer any questions you may have. If you have any in-depth questions, please contact Mrs. Daver, our student government advisor. The changes to government this year is to function more as a government body as opposed to just having the title as an officer. We are hoping that students will become positive and invested in decision making and having their voices heard in a professional manner. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cade Carey, senior at Mineral Point High School, and I'm president of Skills USA. I'm accompanied by sophomore Liam Stump to talk about our recent change to our RTIs. Mr. Wainwright and the school staff put in many hours into making RTIs more meaningful to us.
One positive change to RTI is that students no longer go as a large group to the cafeteria. We are now divided into groups of no more than 12 and assigned a teacher that will be our go-to adult in the building. The groups were randomly chosen and are a mix of freshmen through seniors. The smaller groups make interaction more personal and get to talk to people you may not normally talk to.
We met with these groups every day for the first 2 weeks of school to watch short videos of current events and topics such as having grit, being a leader, the effects of bullying, service, just to name a few. Everyone was encouraged to share their feelings on the topic. This pushed students to communicate and created an inviting environment for everyone to share.
Going forward, Mondays will remain this advisory group day. Advisories will do grade checks, touch and base with the group, and continue positive group interactions. Tuesday through Friday will serve as a combination of necessary interventions, club meetings, and enrichment opportunities. Thank you.
And we just want to thank you all for allowing us to come speak to you tonight. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Mrs. Saver, or if you just want any other information, I'll be sent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
want to go next?
Sure.
Elementary first.
I just come back to follow. Our goal, pretty much every year at the elementary level, is literacy. While our kids be able to read and write for today and for a lifetime, and so that's always going to be somewhat of a focus. This year's theme, we always have a theme, is a community of readers. So we are delving into an actual small group book studies with the staff. They're picking the book they want to read, about reading instruction, and then they're self-forming groups. And then we will together answer big questions to develop kind of our collective knowledge around reading comprehension, or specifically around creating communities of readers, focusing on talk, focusing on authentic reader response versus only a quick check quiz or something like that. We want to kind of, what readers do in the real world, we want to emulate that more in the classroom. So that's our building focus. Related to the strategic plan, we got the academic innovation and independence. Personalized learning, kids sometimes call them wonder projects, passion projects. If you've got a kid in the elementary school, you've probably heard of these, and we've expanded out so every classroom's doing that in some form or fashion. So I remember one parent last year actually had to build a shelf in his daughter's bedroom because all these self-selected projects were coming home and they didn't know where to put them. So that's been great to give kids more independence and autonomy and what they want to learn about, whether it's school-related or not. But it's been a neat process. So we're continuing that. And then community involvement, community engagement. This summer we brought in a workshop consultant from Wisconsin Green Schools Network, and 8 teachers participated in how to design curriculum with local spaces in mind. So one of the first projects was revitalizing the front entrance. If you've driven in front of the school lately, you'll notice it's just transformed, and that was probably about 2/3, 3/4 of the staff that did that. So now they're going to take the kids, okay, and then kind of build off of that. Here's what we've done. We learned a lot about what they learned about. Now let's find some other areas in our school property where we can continue to learn while we're kind of taking ownership and responsibility for our building. So that's what we're doing. Thank you.
First day, we kicked off and met in the cafeteria, went over rules, handbooks, and Mrs. McCauley explained a project that the whole middle school took place in. And this is a project here where each student was given a butterfly to cut out, and they designed their own butterfly. And Mrs. McCauley put the butterflies on the bulletin board on the main level in a group, and then dispersed them out. I don't know if you were able to see the picture on the Facebook page, the district Facebook page, but it was pretty neat because when we look at this, it does the inspiring quote, "Until you spread your wings, you'll have no idea how far you can fly." So that was a 6th through 8th student project. We just had our STAR testing, so now we're able to break into our intervention groups, and we're trying to utilize our staff the best that we can to give some really intense reading and math intervention to those students that need it. Mr. Chuck Smet was hired for our PLTW this year, and he's in our building in the afternoon, and he is doing a design and modeling unit with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders during our rotation, and he's going to be available to do some enrichment with our kids during RTI, so we're really excited about that.
So, did you get the results of the STAR testing, or how soon do you get those?
Almost immediately.
I think it's 24 hours.
Yeah. So pretty quick.
Good. Great.
Thank you.
Amanda Heiser from the Options Education.
Hi. Just wanted to let you know that we started this school year with 18 students. In 2016 and 2017, we started with 11. So we've seen a nice increase. We have 7 that are from contracting districts nearby, and 11 are Mineral Point students. Of the Mineral Point students, there's 3 that are open enrolled just to be able to participate in the program that we offer here. So we certainly think it's been an asset for our students. 4 of our Mineral Point students have what we call a hybrid schedule, which means they're completing courses both at Options and at the high school or middle school. So we've really seen a lot of students starting to kind of have a blended approach, and that's been working well for them. And then we have 2 of our Mineral Point students who are also participating in Southwest Tech classes online for some dual enrollment opportunities for them. We have 11 students in the morning. We run that from 8:30 to 11:30, and 7 students in the afternoon from 12 to 3. We daily provide in-district transportation for 7 of our students throughout the day. If you have any questions, you're certainly welcome to ask them now or reach out at any point in time.
Thanks, man.
I do got a question for Amanda.
Yep.
Where was the enrollment at a year ago this time?
We started with 11.
11.
Yep.
Sorry.
Actually both years that I've been working with the program, we've been.
Okay. Looking down the road, what would a max be for you in year 7?
Right now with our current staffing, the 11 is really a pretty good number. Any more than that, we have to kind of double up on transportation. So like Thursday morning, we're gonna go to Southwest Tech for a tour. And if we were going to do that with any more students in that session, we'd have to be breaking out into 2 vehicles. So right now, 11 in each session seems really good. So that would be sort of a max of 22. And of course, throughout the year, we have students who are seniors who will finish at different times. So there's it's sort of a revolving 22. In the first 2 years of the program, we saw 25 students throughout the course of the year, and have had 13 graduates each year. So we fully anticipate picking up more students. That will probably start pretty heavy the first part of November. Once we start to kind of get into second quarter, we'll probably pick up some students.
And there are reasons where students will move out of your Options program also.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
And last, I'd like to introduce our new Director of Special Education, Miss Angela Klein.
Hello, I was going to introduce myself, but it's really nice to be here. I haven't met all of you before. I don't have a lot to report. I just wanted to give you kind of an update. We were participating this year in what's called a Special Ed Cyclical Indicator. So every 5 years, the Special Ed program has to self-assess themselves through the Department of Public Education. We are on that cycle for next year, so this year we have a few things that we have to do in advance for that. So in the board packet that I shared with you, I kind of shared a timeline. One of those was already completed over the summer. We're currently doing one now, and then the last one we'll do in the spring. And then I just wanted to take the opportunity, I know this was kind of a change in staffing, but I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for splitting the director and the school psychologist position. I hope the staff feels it, but I know that we've already heard from parents that it's been a really positive change for them. We had an elementary student who by the 3rd day was already having some struggles, and when I had talked to the parent on the 3rd day and was explaining some of the interventions that we already had lined up with our psychologist and other things, she said, it's only the 3rd day, you already have all this stuff in place for him, and she was really impressed and thankful for that. So I do think we have a lot of not only academic but social behavioral support that having a full-time psychologist is going to be able to help us provide those additional means to serve students that it's really hard to do when you're doing a combined position. So thank you for taking the opportunity to split that and recognize that it would be beneficial for the school. Yes?
What is IEP?
An IEP is an individual education plan, so when any student is identified in special education in any of the 13 disability areas, we develop an individual education plan. At the crux of it, it talks about where the student is performing now and how their disability affects their education, and then we build goals and services based off of that. So it is the legally binding document that says what we're going to be doing with the students in special education, and then we review it every year. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes.
One more question.
Yeah.
Given the fact that you've got the school psychologist full-time, and I think we're still contracting with an outside...
An outside counseling.
Mental health counseling?
Mental health counselor, yeah.
So how do you see the role of those contracted services playing in the district moving forward, given for your overall mental health strategy for all kids?
So I think the social emotional health of students, it's kind of a skyrocketing area. More and more students are needing social emotional support. I think there are some things that psychologists can do, you know, creating intervention plans and supporting students and to an extent counseling, but I think there are some things that is just beyond our training. You know, we need somebody who's more specialized. So we do have, I think, 1 or 2 who sought out the outside counseling last year, and then this year are actually being seen in-house by our psychologists. But we have, I think, 1 or 2 that we've already said, you know, I think in addition to the person here, he or she needs more than that. It is a role that we're communicating closely, and maybe Amanda can expand. I know that we're kind of doing like a dual training of sorts at the beginning of the year for some of the students at Options, where we're utilizing both of them together, and then rolling that over where Caitlin will be taking over that role and counseling part at Options. So I think it's something that they're interrelated, but I don't think, I wouldn't say that just the one is enough, you know. My own children I've taken to outside counselors before, and the opportunity to be able to have them here, I think, is amazing, because just trying to get into counseling, to have to leave school, to the opportunity that it's here for them is just an amazing thing for families. So.
And the company that comes from Platteville that's not paid for by the district.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
And they work more specifically with the students, where Caitlin can work with students, but also then works with staff members. You know, here are some ways to handle some of these outbursts, or when these things are going, and helps put behavior plans in place.
And Caitlin is definitely helping with, individual student plans, and a lot of the ones that she's seeing for media counseling are more of like small group, communication, social skill, small group activities where, in the case of the outside counselor, they're seeing students individually, and it's, because of HIPAA laws and everything, it's very difficult to do a group, counseling session in that. So, we're taking advantage of being able to do both individualized and small group sessions this way too. I'd love to see the counseling services not only grow here, but in all schools. I think it's something that, it's a huge asset, a huge family engagement piece, a big community involvement piece. So, I'd love to be able to see more people take advantage of this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a question for Angela.
Yeah.
Doc mentioned the IEPs. If a family has questions or concerns about any child in the IEP, they're able to come in every week,
Every week. So by law, we have to meet 1 time a year, and they have to receive updates on the progress of the goals every time we do report cards. So the same time a parent would get updated, they have to get updated on goals. But we can sit down and meet with a parent every week. They can request an IEP meeting as many times as they want.
If you see a child struggling in a subject in special ed, do you reach out to them right away?
We try to. So one of the, we have to send those progress report updates quarterly. And if we identify that the child's not making progress, we have to meet.
Okay.
If they've already met the goal, we have to meet. If they're just progressing along, we report that. But obviously we want to stay on top and monitor them as close as we can and make sure that they're responding.
And that's having a good relationship with the
Absolutely,
staff.
absolutely. And, I think the staff is phenomenal at the special ed teachers and the regular teachers talking with each other and just keeping each other updated in the back and forth. And, that's really what it's about, is that the open communication. And our Wednesday PLC time is a great opportunity for our staff to be able to do that, because we sit down and we meet as teams on specific students, not always students with IEPs, just students who are struggling or in need or identified, and that's what that time is for. And sometimes it might focus around a student with an IEP that's not.
To help the board realize how big this program is. Do you know a number of kids throughout the 3 buildings that are in?
I should have. I want to say it's approximately
76.
Thank you. So they're out of the special ed teachers that we employ, there are 62, but that doesn't include the students who have speech and language identifying, a speech and language criteria. It does include those who have speech and language and other needs, but it doesn't include those with just speech and language. So
And that's
7580 is probably
That's
a
what
really
it
good
was
number.
the last time I had
Yeah.
a report.
I would think 7580 is a really good number. Most, I think the state average last year was 13.7% of students are identified on average across the state with having a disability. So usually they say if your district is somewhere between 12 and 14% of a district has students identified with a disability, you're kind of right on target for not under-identifying or over-identifying.
And is Amanda's numbers in that 76
No.
approximately?
No, so options is not. We do have a couple students who are students with IEPs who use options as a service placement, but options, students who are in options are not special education students. You know, they could be a student in special education, but not every student at options is a student in special ed.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Really enjoying it here, so.
And then from the superintendent's perspective, school psych is 90%, not 100%.
Yes.
Our school psychologist contract is a 90% contract.
The FTE? that you
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Is a 0.9 FTE for school psychologists?
Correct.
Great.
From the superintendent's standpoint, again, hopefully you all saw my apology. I was able to dig in today. Angie was the recipient of about 8 to 10 emails that I'd sent out that I thought were going to board members because I was typing in a group and it would populate board members and I was typing up announcements, updates, and
And that's my error. It was a group I had tried to create 2 years ago, so it was an inactive board group that.
so in a phone conversation with Jeff today, he goes, I didn't get anything. I said, are you kidding me? I sent something out on Friday. I sent something out Friday morning before school started. He says, no, I checked my school email and personal email, and then just so happened that Dependable Solutions was here today, and we were able to dig in and find out what was going on. So now I believe I have a group email that will get you updates. With that being said, I've never had this opportunity to ask, so I would hope you would give some input now. How and when would you like information to come from me, kind of on a district perspective as a superintendent? You know, are you thinking every other week, as needed? What would you like to see and when would you like to see it?
Every day. If there's something.
Yeah, and I think if something comes up and you feel like sharing with the board, you know, I don't mind the emails.
Okay.
You know, but if it's been a slow week, I mean, I think at a minimum, you know, before the board meeting would be great, but I don't know, I mean, you guys have been on here longer than I have as far as what.
Once a week for me would be nice. Honestly, Luke sent us way too many emails. It was like 3 or 4 a day a lot of times, and it was like, I was gonna time to read all those. I mean, if it's important.
Personally, I don't mind them. Just for an example, I heard we had a bus incident. I would like to know that as a school board member, if there's a problem of that nature. I don't think that's going to.
I agree. I think it's better that we know than don't know.
Yeah,
You know.
it's an incident.
Right. Using that as an example, if air conditioning is reading 71 instead of 72, we don't need to know that, of course. Another example.
Fair enough.
Even if it's something really positive too, like, hey,
Absolutely.
this awesome thing happened today, you know, I wasn't expecting, I feel really good about it, I want to share with the board, you know.
I like the little spiel that you guys had on Facebook that your kids were talking about. That was very cool.
I think this recap was awesome. I don't know if it's necessarily monthly, but I think if there's things to report out, it would be great to hear from various members that reported and possibly students.
Sure. I wouldn't mind a
This was fantastic.
I wouldn't mind a student update from maybe reps from student government or some student leaders or something like that.
They're already planning once a month.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's like more district involvement. I thought something like that.
I
so.
actually told my son, it's like, Might be a little more regular than we need. He's like, too bad, yeah, we're gonna need every month. Okay.
Good. Yeah, that's a great.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to see the students stick around for the whole meeting. Maybe we ought to incentivize them with a high grade or something. Extra credit. Supper.
I used to do that when I was in the classroom teaching a government class. They had to stick around and get a signature from either the school board president or the village board president after a meeting was done on the agenda, so that they had to stick the whole time. I did that as a classroom
Steer
teacher.
them off.
Another issue.
Maybe the civics class.
Yeah.
Sitting on one or two.
Yeah, you want real government participation, right? Not just pretend. Marcia and I had a chance to meet with Lisa Boyson, and I shared that in the email, and hopefully you got them today. She's a representative from R.W. Baird. They take care of a lot of the financing and bond issues when it comes to referendums. Lisa has worked personally with Marcia in the past, and she's worked with the Mineral Point School District in the past with previous referendums. She worked with Terry Heeman in the past, and Marcia is very comfortable working with them. And if we can get a vote of confidence, we'd like to enter into a letter of engagement with Baird to help us through this process. Then they would be able to, they've started to give us some information in terms of how they can work the mill rate so that it isn't as big of an impact on the taxpayers. Everything, according to Lisa, and Marcia is my witness, everything is free of charge until the referendum passes. So if the referendum does not pass in November, we are not out any money to R.W. Baird at this point in time. If it would pass, then they would use their representatives to basically sell the bonds. And Lisa has some ideas as to how they could do it to best help all the taxpayers in Mineral Point. And she would gladly come out and meet with the school board if you have any questions. She would come out, if we're ready to do a letter of engagement, she would come to our open houses that we have scheduled and be available for any community members that have questions on the financing. So I would just, I feel very comfortable. Again, this is somebody that Marcia has worked with several times. A lot of other superintendents have spoken very highly of Baird, and I think they're well represented. They are part of the Cuba City's successful referendum, and a few others in this area. They are working with Dodgeville on their referendum, so I think she said she had 172 referendums that she's been a part of, so they have a great deal of experience.
I got a couple questions. Is this kind of standard procedure that we would engage with a company to help us process a referendum or
Yes.
handle any kind of bonds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially to come up with the impact of the mill rate.
Right. Right. So
Typically, R.W. Baird can do, it's kind of like your one-stop shop. Other places will help prepare the bond, but then they have to go to somebody else to sell the bond. R.W. Baird has all of that basically under one roof. So you would pay one group to help you get to that point, and then you'd pay another group additional monies to get it across the finish line, to sell the bonds and take care of all of that, where Baird Company can do it all in one shot.
Maybe we use the last one.
I will say yes, but I would have to go back and double check.
It was.
That's 7 years ago or whatever, it might have been Baird as well.
And do you know if they charge a flat fee, or is it like a percentage of the bond?
Percent of the project. Lisa said it would be anywhere between 1 to 1.25% of the referendum question.
And this might be a dumb question, but so there's two resolutions, right? So would bonds go on for both resolutions, or is it just the remodel?
They would go out for both. In Lisa's words, the 350 is kind of like no big deal, because it's so low compared to a $12 million bond. But it's all in one, because I asked, is there a separate cost then for each one of our questions? And she said, no, it's all together through them.
That was actually a really good question, because they only consider the 350 1,000 once, because that would be a recurring.
Right, it's just the one question. And really, you're kind of going to the taxpayers. And in her words, it's like you're going to them for a loan for up to $350,000 a year, every year after that. So it's not necessarily the same as the 11.92.
Well, I'll make a motion, we sign a letter of engagement with this Baird company. Do you need a motion?
It's not an action item, but I think with just approval, I can at least reach out to them and they will, she's already starting to work on a lot of numbers for us.
Would it be better to do it as a straw vote?
Yeah, I think if we do it as a straw vote, then that would bring it back for formal in the October board meeting.
Well, okay, I would be interested. I mean, 1% of 12 millions, everybody can do that math. Is there, do we ask around, Mitch, just to see if that's a standard fee?
Certainly can.
I mean, I do agree that it would be hard for Marcia to solicit bonds herself. I don't know if she can do that.
Correct. They have,
Be licensed, I'm sure. Do that.
Yeah.
This is the company that most schools use. Like I told you, I think I looked through like 50 examples of referendum used. I couldn't give you a statistic because I didn't keep track, but I saw Baird on a large majority of the school referendum financial info. So
What's nice about them is what Mitch said, that they can do the whole package.
Yeah.
They don't have to go out.
You didn't see
solicit.
anybody that didn't use a bond.
it didn't stand out to me, maybe just because I was looking over here, but.
we use Quarles and Brady for the language. They can help us get to the bond point, and when they pass, then they would, in essence, sell that to somebody else. They would have somebody else come in and bid on whether or not they would take the bonds and sell them. They would turn it over to another company. So you would pay Quarles and Brady one amount of money, and then you would turn around and pay a bond company an additional amount of money.
So you're looking for a vote of confidence to continue to move forward working with Baird, and then
Right.
at the October meeting, there would be some official action item?
Right, and I can reach out to some other places to see if they've used others or what
I think that's
fees.
reasonable, just to make sure we're getting a fair deal.
If there's a sliding scale, like, I mean, a 12 million versus a 350,000, that's quite a difference in the fee structure. And is it 1% across the board, or does it range from 1 to 1.25, like you were alluding to earlier?
She had said part of what she would have to do is, what specifically does she need? Where does she have to look in our information? Because she's going to be pulling information from all over. So whether it's a lot of work for her to do, then it might make it go up to the 1.25. If it seems pretty straightforward and there's a lot of information readily available, it might be the 1%. But she could certainly explain that at a follow-up meeting if you'd like to even have her come and speak to you directly.
In order for any communication to start going out, we need to have tax impact info prepared, however. So I would like some sort of vote of confidence from the board, because we need to cite a financial source for that and have legitimate info before anything can be communicated, which is why we're behind now.
Dr. Dunn made a motion, we want to second it. It's only going to be a straw vote, but a second.
Motion first draw.
Okay, do you want to just call the table?
We don't
What
need a
is
second?
the motion?
Well, I don't think we need to do that, Jeff. Does anybody have any strong objections to Mitch getting this information, bringing it back to us? It's not going to cost us anything until the referendum passes.
Correct.
Yeah,
There you go.
Okay.
go ahead and get the numbers we need for the communication.
Okay. And the last thing I have, I'm trying to wrap up the roof project in the office area. Roger's been reaching out to FEH, Kramer's, what's left over contingency funds, what's been spent out of there. There is a need to tap into his capital maintenance budget. We have the people that came in and installed the carpet have submitted a bill, and they're kind of waiting. So we'll probably be something will be coming through the capital maintenance budget to at least pay them off. Their FEH and Kramer are trying to give us the final numbers for travel expenses and anything else that comes in to get a final what's left over of contingency. However, in an email that Roger received today, it said there might not be much left of contingency monies based on the 2 different projects that were going on at the same time. So just as an update there. And that would be the superintendent.
There's certainly that list that they put together, a whole lot of contingency. Roger will look at that and validate that list.
Correct. And he's been trying to get that from them and what specifically has been taken out. I think at one point in time, there might have been some talk of, well, there's plenty of contingency monies if you wish to do this. So then they did the next step, and then now we're finding out maybe there isn't that kind of a number left anymore. But hopefully we'll have it by the October meeting.
I have one question for Mitch. Can you explain to us the day of Caitlin, the psychologist, what she does? How much time she spends in this building versus middle school versus?
So Caitlin and I have worked our schedule that each of us are in one building at a time. So on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm at the elementary, and Tuesday, Thursday, I'm in the middle school, high school. And then she alternates. So Monday, Wednesday, she's in the elementary, Monday, Wednesday, she's up here, Tuesday, Thursday, she's in the elementary, and then her alternate Fridays, she goes wherever it is needed. And then obviously we come back and forth as needed, like I was up here this morning for another meeting. But we have set times in both buildings, and both of us are split, so there's always one of us in the 2 buildings. She's been doing a lot of, I would say, probably individual check-ins with students who are possibly either new students or students that have been here in the past, where we want to develop intervention plans. Large amount of them are behavior intervention plans that she's working on developing. I think she has a couple small groups. She is doing some gifted and talented meetings with students during RTI time in the week. I know she's been up to options a few times.
She's met with groups of teachers too.
Several teachers on multiple times.
I guess that answered my question. She is proactive. She doesn't wait for something.
No, she's been seeking, going out, seeking and trying to identify either students that were brought up to the 2 of us from here, or those that have moved in, so.
Would it be too big of an ask for her, or that position, to meet with every student throughout the school year?
I think that would be a lot.
She's very visible and very open to speaking with any
I would say it's not too much of her to, she already, I think, strives to go into every classroom.
Okay.
So every classroom and teacher in class sees her. So I know that she's already done that, and, sent things out at both schools about, it's not uncommon for me to come in, I want the kids to see me, it's different than what I've done, just going in and trying to get the kids to know who we are and explain in terms what we do, and that we can be here for them. I know she goes into classroom visits and teachers, and she's been doing a lot of, I think, teacher time with teachers right now to help them develop some individual responses to students. So.
It may be every student.
I think that's a
Every
lot.
middle school or high school student,
Yeah.
and maybe not so much the elementary. I just don't know. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, Larry?
Yep.
I don't know which one to ask. Are you using the FAST program this year?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep, we're currently recruiting. We had an article in the paper, and
Flyers went home last week with students.
okay. Okay.
Building safety updates, Matt, you want to start?
Sure, I can start. I just went through the presentation from last year, I believe. We had already met last spring as well. Just to kind of go over some of those issues we've addressed, what still needs to be addressed. So just going through that, I just made a list of what's been met, what we still need to address, and then just other things that have happened that weren't on the list, but we did address. So the teachers were trained last year at the online module for active shooter, and we've also received in-person training last week through some officers from Iowa County. The bullying tip line, phone line is posted for the older kids. We don't for the younger kids. don't have cell phones, they don't, they generally will tell you if something's wrong. Whereas older kids are a little more, less apt to want to, create waves. So upstairs we have some of the phone numbers that they can text or email or whatever, any concerns they have with bullying. And it does get used, so that's good. I noticed, and thanks to Bill and the other officers, we requested a little more presence before and at the end of the day. So I see them frequently, especially more for a safety issue of transportation when they're dropping kids off. We just want to make sure drivers aren't, going through a stop sign, for example. It's just a lot of kids, a lot of parents, and so police have been there just to kind of help keep things going and safe. As you know, the second entry was built at the front office. The registration process is working nicely. It's going through the doors just to drop off cupcakes at the second grade classroom. They have to, everyone's got to report in. We're actually adding a second buzzer when Jane is out, my assistant. Elaine can then let people in through too, so that'll be good. Evacuation and school intruder drills have been a focus for the last 2 years respectively. So we've actually gone through that process with the whole school. We have kind of a focus every year on one area. The staff have been great about updating dismissal plans, recess supervision plans. They almost co-lead it now because they see it more than I do. This is where we need to be, so they'll make small adjustments to that, and that's been really nice. 4K students now are first to evacuate in case of a fire, so we'll address that. And there are no permanent staff student assignments in non-classroom space. What I mean by that is no one's got an office in the paper closet. There's not a permanent full-time, like small group instruction in one of the locker rooms, for example. I was just thinking, there really is no exit plan for those types of rooms. There's no windows, there's no way to get out. Most classrooms have windows, they have different, and then just like air circulation, just things like that. So there's no one in there full-time, which is good. Still to address, student access to custodial supplies, it's just, we don't have any storage room. And so we got the copy machine here, we got the paper here, and the books here, and the different cleaning supplies here. Kids generally don't go in there, but teachers know they're not supposed to leave the classroom, and if they need a copy, they gotta go get it. We did put a copier in the library, so they wouldn't have to do it as much, but if the referendum passes, that's one thing I really want to look at with the FEH. With FEH is to create more storage, because there just isn't enough. There's no signage above outside doors for the emergency services, so like this is door A, this is door B. We talked about doing that, and Roger and I think Luke was involved. We said, should we hold off on that because you're going to put them up now, and then you're just going to have to change them, and will that cause confusion? We weren't sure. But what it would do is, if there was an intruder, we could say, came in on door B, instead of trying to say north or south, you just, when you're in that state of mind, it's really hard to. We're not sure where to go on that. Classroom door securing, I know Bill has been looking into this with Kyle Carey. So our doors in the elementary open out for the most part. And that's a lot harder when, to try to secure it. So I don't know if Bill, you wanted to speak to that, just some models you have? Or?
I'm not going to discuss any of the security by the cameras on.
Oh, okay.
Because anytime we try to make something and somebody out there sees it, they're going to find a way to defeat it. So
I can say we are continuing to talk about, look at prototypes. But again, it comes back to, do you put them on now, and then a year from now you're going indoors that you don't need that? I don't know. Shatter-resistant film has not been added to the windows yet. I know they've looked into some class, but that would be only, we're looking at for only the front office area, not for every classroom. Video surveillance system, we have one at the elementary, and I would say it needs an update, but to be honest, there's such a big grounds there. We've used it a couple times for, behavior concerns. You just can't tell. So I don't know what a good solution there is. We have it, we don't use it a lot. Building, and then just anything that's addressed with the referendum, lips on the floors, and someone in a wheelchair can't get over it. Just building code, air circulation. It was pretty steamy today in school. I wasn't there, but I heard. And it's just hard to learn when it's like that. So, And then just other improvements. The front entrance landscaping, like I said, the one advantage to there is it improves that visibility from the door to the street. So that's good. And it just looks very welcoming. So thanks to all the staff who did that. We did cut down the apple trees on Cawthorn. There was I guess the safety thing was it attracted a lot of bees around this time of year. So we're hoping to see a reduction in stings. Just with all the rotten apples out there. And then just other stuff that Roger and the buildings and grounds will be good about getting on. We had a clog drain in the lower playground. So it looked like a waterfall and went over the retaining wall of the playground, and they were there right away and took care of that. And I will say too, just from my perspective as a principal, another safety improvement I would say is just having, like Angie said, 2 people there now, Caitlin and Angie. As you were saying, they're more proactive, so they're working with these kids before they're having some kind of a problem. So that reduces it. I can just say from what I've found is I'm in classrooms more than I ever have been. I can just see when I leave notes for teachers, I am. I think some of that is attributed to just some of the work of working with these kids on a social, emotional level. Angie and Caitlin and the staff has really helped me be a better instructional leader, which is my top priority. So along with safety. So, anyway, thank you.
And at this building, similar to the elementary, once the school gets started, any visitors, any students must come in through the office. It's the only way into the building now. And for the film for the windows, I just received an email. CESA 10 is still coming out. They have to notify the school districts. Every school district should be notified by the 1st of November. I have not received anything from CESA 10 and the company they're contracting to come out and install the film, but it's still in the works but they're only covering the main entrance. That's what their contract is, and their fees are going to just cover the main entrance of buildings. I can kind of show everybody after the board meeting's over how the main office works and how you can get in. And your only way in is through a buzzer system to get into the building. So we are in that same situation that the elementary school is in. I know Dr. Dunn had sent me an email about following up with some things. We had this past Wednesday all staff members, all faculty members here in the high school building. The response is called ADD, Avoid, Deny, Defend, and it's Run, Hide, Fight is another way of saying it. ALICE is another type of training that it's called. So just trying to at least get our staff members to realize there are some alternatives to how they react to the potential of an intruder. I'm not saying it's the be-all to end-all, but it certainly gives us more preparation. And after that training, I talked to several staff members who had said, I already started to think a little bit more on my way home from school, on my way to school, what would happen if, I go between a couple of rooms. What would I tell kids if I were in this room? So staff members are already starting to think. I know there's Blue U. There is a national speaker, Jesus Villahermosa. And I can't remember the third person. I was trying to go back through old board minutes to find who the third group was that was mentioned once before last spring to try to investigate what it would be to bring them in, what the training would cost. So if anybody else has a better memory than I do, I would certainly welcome that. The principals group that meets once a month had Jesus Villahermosa, and Bill, tell me, he is a ex
Seattle SWAT.
Okay.
Retired 30 years.
So he spoke via teleconference with the superintendents last spring, and I got a copy of their notes at our first meeting, and in his presentation he said it's still the safest response for a school to have to an intruder is lockdown. Through all the studies, that's the safest thing that he has found in all of his work with schools. So part of it will depend on how we can react, how the adults can react in the building, so that if there ever were an intruder, if we can identify the location of that intruder, that allows people on opposite ends of the building an opportunity to get out and get to some other place that's safe. So we are still looking for the additional training and trying to get both buildings and our local response team kind of all on the same page when it comes to that.
I found the email with that list of groups, so I just sent it to you.
Perfect, thank you. And yes, Mr. Carey's actually throwing it out to a couple of students. They're working on 3 different prototypes as a ways to secure doors, whether they swing out or swing in. I think you sent the link to...
It's a type of a
right, and it was
pin system.
Right, and what's funny is that another community member met Roger and had taken a picture. He was in a hotel room and took a picture of what was in his room, and it was similar to what the item that you had kind of shared. So it's like, yeah, we are looking for the most secure, cost-effective way of making sure doors that swing out or in can be protected and give as much emphasis on safety of our students as we possibly can. So we're continuing to look.
Well, and Cummins offered to make whatever design we come up with, they offered to help us make it.
Oh.
And that was through Mr. Carey.
So maybe when we have a plan, we could just review those things in closed session, like Bill suggested.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Authorize
Yeah.
those.
You know, I guess if contacted by parents, community members, you know, does the school have a plan? Yes, we do, and I would echo Bill's sentiment. I don't want to broadcast it on the internet for everybody to know, but would certainly share in a closed session more specifics that we would be undergoing.
And just to be clear, to get the grant money for security measures that we were awarded a few months ago,
Yep.
we had to meet certain requirements, and one of those requirements was appropriate training of staff. Is that correct?
That was the follow-up. The follow-up grant was only for the training.
Okay.
The first grant, the $60,000 that was awarded, was for securing your main entrances and the film that could go on the windows at the front entrance. It could go towards that. It could be used for training, but everything was used on a secure front entrance.
Okay, I thought that in order to get that 60,000, we had to show that we were doing a certain level of training in place. No?
That's not.
Okay.
That's not my understanding. I can go back and look at the grant description, but
We had to submit what our current plan was and have it signed off by local authority as
Okay.
part of the grant application.
Okay.
But the second part, like he said, does offer some potential monies for training if you want to use. I believe the Secret Service adopted suggested plan. I think it limits it to whatever
it was a specific
Department of Ed has approved as their, I think it's a Secret Service plan.
Right, yeah. So it was one particular plan.
I see.
And of course, everybody and their brother is aware that that grant money's out there, so the emails coming, hey, we can provide your training, and we can do this, and we can do that, you know. Everybody wanted a piece of that money that was out there. So, yeah, the first grant, no, was submit what you're doing and how you're securing that front entrance. And we were fortunate, we had, at the elementary school, they had the equipment, we had the equipment, we just repositioned it at this building. It was just making sure that the only path in had to come in through the office.
Okay, so there are no DPI requirements for training of all schools in the state, for example, a certain level of training?
There are
readiness?
trainings, bloodborne pathogen trainings, seclusion restraint.
So specific to security that, or
There
preparedness
is,
for?
right, there is a, Act 143 deals with school safety. This Safe Schools Alert is the bullying, so that if somebody wants to submit something, text, email, or phone call anonymously or submit their name, it comes to us through the Safe Schools Alert, but there's also a Safe Schools program that provides these trainings. And I've been working with Julie Pompos on the most recent law about the mandatory reporting for threats to school violence.
Okay.
And they put one out there. They work with the DPI and the state to make sure that the trainings meet the state of Wisconsin requirements. So we are trying to get that information out to our staff members as well.
You mean for how to do mandatory reporting?
That's one, or the specific one, the mandatory reporting of the threat to school violence, bloodborne pathogens is another mandatory training.
Sure.
Seclusion restraint, that's another mandatory training. So there's some that need to be done yearly, others that need to be done at least once every 5 years. So our new staff are getting more trainings than the veteran staff are getting as a requirement.
Okay. So we're meeting our requirements from the state
Correct.
for training of staff and other
Correct.
administrators. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. Anything else on?
You want us to know, did you want to present? Turn the camera off.
Well, I have pictures.
Nobody's opposed. If he's got stuff he wants to present.
Okay.
Works fine. Since we don't have any closed things.
No, because it's just gonna go right.
It's on. I can, yeah, the clock will help.
Okay, we turned the camera off for a few minutes because we were talking about safety issues that we really don't want a possible intruder to figure out what we're doing. So stay tuned. Okay, let's move on to enrollment update.
Okay, enrollment updates, not official. This Friday is the true third Friday count, so we're all encouraging great record keeping on Thursday, Friday, and Monday to have our official numbers, but just a preliminary comparison to where we were a year ago, 724 to where we are this year, 765. So we have an increase, and a lot of those are open enrollment numbers. That does not negatively impact our sparsity aid, which is a very good thing for us as well. Our sparsity aid is based on mineral point students only, whether they open enroll out or not. We just count the number of students that are mineral point students.
FTE,
Right.
full-time equivalent as well.
Right? So if we have 10 students go out, we still count those 10 in our sparsity count. But if we get 75 open enrolled in, they do not count against us in that case. And we do get obviously about 2/3 of the state funding for those students that open enroll in. So that is a positive as well for us. So I'll have a firm number for you in October, but this is just our preliminary count beginning of the year with students showing up first days of school.
So just to be clear, there's a lot of talk about there being a flat or decline in enrollment. This is a significant increase in enrollment.
Correct.
I mean,
41 students.
that's pretty significant historically, isn't it?
Butts and seats.
Yeah.
Right, but I
Kids per
mean,
classroom.
Yeah.
a plus 41 is historically larger than in years past, isn't it?
Correct. We for many years were on the negative side of open enrollment. We had more students going out than coming in. And now it has switched over the last this is probably 3 years.
Since I've been here, it's
Okay.
been a positive.
So it's been growing. It's switched to a positive number, and every year that positive number gets to be larger. So that's a very, very good thing for our district. I think it speaks volumes to the schools, to the staff, to the programs that we're offering, that people want to be a part of that.
Have we done a survey? Obviously not this year, but was the one we did last year, was that for the previous year or do you know?
I'm not positive.
I remember, they had the top reasons of why people enrolled in the district and those kinds of things. So it's just kind of interesting to hear their reasons for it, so we should do one again.
Any indication on 5th to 6th grade, what the jump was? Did we have like?
Miss
let's
Dahl,
move in?
6th grade, Miss Dahl's the middle school principal.
I've
heard that.
I took that into consideration, but 9 is a high number.
We
Yeah.
were at.
57 to 66, so
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
nice.
Well, that was in 12th grade too.
So.
I see 6th to 7th went down, so once they get to.
Yeah, then they get to know my style and then they want to be one. I do know some of the 6th graders, his older sister open enrolled here last year. There were some bullying issues at other schools that made parents open enroll here at Mineral Point, so.
I can tell you, I've had conversations. I had a conversation with a board member from a different school district who said, when it comes to programming, do you really offer more than we do? And I said, no, but we tend to be recipients of a lot of students from his district. And I said, I think the culture and the climate within the buildings is making a big difference, and families want to know, you know, maybe I can't get 6 AP classes in high school, but you know what? My student is safe, my student is cared for, people make connections and go out of their way to make connections with my students, are bringing more students here. You know, that story is going out and being told again and again. It's like, we're getting more and more students because of those kinds of things.
That's a big
Our
thing.
staff.
Exactly.
The number 2 reason was better communication and the storytelling of what's going on in our district. So as you see Dodgeville investing more resources into communication and stuff like that, because every school is doing great things. It's just who's telling it, the story better, so people know and can make those informed choices.
Referendum? Oh, referendum communications? Yep, that's you,
I
Joelle.
got back from the bathroom this evening. I emailed the board the best rough draft that I had at the moment when I sent it this morning. You didn't get one. Were there any facts on there that you had an issue with? You can let me know. Andy and I had a good conversation via email, and he talked about showing, like, would it be possible to show the current layout of the current elementary? And then, you know, have some of this. And I think that's good. We then got into kind of a discussion much around Bill's point about, I know that we had this conversation, Luke and I did last year, about maps of buildings and where we display them and where we don't. And the map that I received from the office when I asked for one this afternoon to see if we could put it into not this communication, but a future one, was too detailed for my liking to put out. So we're gonna try to come up with something that is detailed enough, but not specific enough where it could be detrimental to safety in any way. So I thought that was a good idea.
And this will be basically like this. It'll be the front page letter. You'll open it up and there'll be 2 pages of information on the inside.
Yeah,
Then you close it and it's the back side of it. Just a little bit of information and then mailing label. So it'll just be
And
large
this
piece
was a
of paper.
labor of love, as I said. My eyes were kind of going cross-eyed from looking at a lot of different examples. The lady from Baird and I spoke, and she has run 172 referenda, so you know, I had some good conversations with her as well. This is just a starter, like I said. The good thing about doing the next communication as an insert into the newsletter is we have more space. I think that is great. We're not limited to just a mailing like this. The website is going to house a lot of this information, so we can put up a frequently asked questions section on the website. A lot of schools do that. So as Mitch is out and about in the community giving these presentations, he can take note of some of the things that people have for questions, and then we can answer those for folks. So I think that's a good idea too. I'm very pleased with Kristen, as I said in my email. I think the logo's great, love it. And I think it's a good start to get the information out there. The tax impact will nail down tomorrow, hopefully.
Yep.
And then we'll let it ride, so.
Can I make one, it looks great, by the way. One suggestion I have is I want to make sure that people don't look at this design and say, oh, well, the parking lot can't be there, you know, or
Okay, so like a draft?
the playground can't be there. So yeah, maybe I would change the word sketch to maybe example of. What about maybe like example of instead of sketch of? Because then that implies, well, this is an example of one of many designs that could be decided on. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's fine. The tax impact stuff, that shouldn't change too much. She didn't have the mill rate there yet. That was gonna come following tonight's meeting, but. So yeah, so we hope that you join us for these open houses, and we're starting to schedule. We've got Kiwanis scheduled, we've got Lions, Library Board. We're gonna fill in those groups and get the word out, so.
So this was Kristen Mitchell designing for this together, Joel?
That's right.
I mean, we didn't get a correspondence, I did anyhow, from a community member asking why you cannot do this, Joel.
I'm not a trained graphic designer, I didn't go to school for that, that's not my strength. So I certainly could. Would it be this professional looking product? Absolutely not. I think our community has come to kind of disassociate this. You know, she's been doing our newsletter for a long time, she does a lot of our signage around the buildings. It just has that very similar look, which is really important when you I don't like the word brand necessarily, but you want people to associate your school with a high quality product, and mine would not be. I'll just say it. It wouldn't be the worst ever, but it certainly would be this. Any other facts that anybody has any? All right, well, stay tuned, and then I have to have copy for the whole 16-page newsletter to Kristen by Friday. So once she gets proof of that to me, I'll email it again, the referenda portion at least, and you can get your eyes on it. But nobody has seen this because, as I said in my email, I didn't want to circulate wrong tax info. So you're welcome to take this with you, but just don't let it get away from you because I wouldn't want misinformation out in the district in case those numbers do change, so.
So the first mailing, Joel, just refresh us again, is going to cost the district how much?
I don't know, but I do know, as I stated, that when you gave me the $4,000 figure, it shouldn't even come close to that, I'm gonna guess, total, because I did not factor in or know if it was appropriate until I spoke to people who do this, to include a referendum section in a regular district communication as in white and blue, and they said absolutely. So that's a cost savings right there because you're already gonna mail that anyway.
So that 4,000 included this one,
And
the next one?
It won't include the newsletter, the district newsletter, because you're gonna pay for that regardless. So
Okay.
it will include this one and a follow-up postcard, and then any sort of like, I'm thinking Mitch needs a larger sign of the proposed renovations that he can take to the presentation, a couple of those things. But you've gone down from 2 full mailings to 1 full mailing and a postcard. So there's definitely a savings.
Can we keep this, Joel?
Yes, you can, just like I said, just don't show anybody the tax impact info in case that changes until tomorrow. You're welcome.
Well, there is no tax impact, correct?
Right here.
Yeah.
Down here, I was looking at this here, yeah.
Yeah, this is the mill rate comparison, and then this will be in the $100,000. So these numbers she thinks are pretty solid, but she didn't have the mill rate info yet, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5, search firm for district superintendent. Aaron, you basically requested that, what do you
I
want?
did thank you for putting that on. So if we're going to put out a bid for a search firm, a vetting firm, I think the earlier we get started, the more successful we're going to be. Wider range of, a bigger pool of candidates. It was said earlier that we want to have the search going on until the end of the year through January. And it's already the middle of September. Take quite possibly a month or two to come up with a search firm. I understand, Jeff, there's a personnel committee that's going to be called potentially next week. Okay. Anyhow, I think we got to turn it over to the personnel committee and start the process there.
You're thinking outside what we already cast out for applicants, you're thinking for the best?
Certainly the applicants can be included. Are there any other thoughts?
Pardon me?
Any other thoughts?
Well, yes, I think we've given the job to Mitch, and I haven't really seen how he's performing. I thought we should at least see how his performance is before we go through the process of looking for someone else for that position. The other thing, too, is I thought we voted down the vetting. We decided that we were all able to pick a candidate if we had a group of candidates. You know, I remember that was brought up. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but my thought was that Mitch has the job. We need to see and give him an appropriate time to see how it performs.
Oh, I agree, but what I'm saying, Doc, is the first year will come upon us. Are we gonna wait till the first year to decide then if Mitch is gonna, I guess the board needs to answer the question, what are we gonna do to get a full-time superintendent in place by May of 2019?
I'm not sure.
8 months away.
I'm not sure.
And certainly I don't wanna rush anything either.
When we posted that, in literally less than a month, we had over 30 applications.
Yeah.
I personally just don't think that it's fair to even talk about this until at least November or December. Because if it takes 30 days to get a pool, that still leaves you 5 months to work on things. And I agree with Doc. We made Mitch interim, and I think that it's only fair that we give him some time.
So what are the benchmarks going to be? I mean, is the report card score going to be part of your decision? Is staff morale, parent, maybe we're going to send out a survey? I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, that's a good question, because you had an evaluation form for administrator before, which we all decided wasn't all that good. And so that may be something that should be developed. And I know we filled that thing out on Lou Francois, but we also had the problem with, we weren't real pleased with the form. And I don't know, personally, I think you need to develop certain metrics. What you mentioned are really good, and that should be the criteria by which we decide. And I don't think you really have good metrics right now. I don't know, because the last time, that was the complaint about that form, was this, we sent them all to you, Jeff, at that time.
The evaluation form.
Right,
So.
yeah. And we decided it wasn't a very good form, so. And now, I think it's an appropriate discussion about what metrics, like you're saying. What are the metrics to measure someone's performance?
And I'm confident Mitch will be in the pool of candidates, of course.
Yeah, I would assume so. But in a sense, he has the job now and needs to be evaluated on that job. So
Right.
you're saying opening it up again, and what is this period of time for Mitch?
To maintain, we just talked about it during the enrollment update. That didn't happen by accident.
No.
Increasing our enrollment by 40 kids, Mitch alluded to it. Mitch has been part of that,
Right.
the success.
Yeah.
Along with every other staff.
All the teachers, yeah.
Absolutely.
The whole institution.
And I've said it once and I'll say it again, we cannot afford to skip a beat on that.
I agree.
And it needs to it's going to take time, and over the next 6-7 months, if Mitch comes out on top, I'll completely live with that.
I think another way to just describe what Larry's saying is, we should make a plan to hire a long-term candidate, whether it's Mitch
I
or
agree.
somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think the question is, are we going to bring a firm in to give us a pool of candidates that we're happy with? Are they going to help us, with the process, arrange interviews, vet the candidates?
Do we need to spend that kind of money? Can we develop a system? I mean, what I heard before was $8,000 to $10,000 for a vetting firm.
We spent $300,000 on raises, Doc, and nobody batted an eye, nobody asked a question. And I want to spend $10,000 on a search firm, and it's a big deal now. That's what added to keep our school at the quality level we're at.
Well, I agree completely. I think that's the goal.
And
that's what's in this.
These 30 candidates, who's going to vet them? Is Jeff going to take the time to vet? Is Jeff qualified to vet them? Are we going to let Nate vet them, or myself? I don't feel comfortable. Mitch certainly can't have anything to do with it, because he's part of the pool of candidates. That's the questions we have to ask.
Well, I mean, as you know, some of the public was here and they expressed the concern that that might be money ill spent because, as she said, Mary Jean James, we elected you guys to do this job. Aren't you capable? I don't know if I am or not, really. And I agree we need criteria the vetting thing, I would like to know more about that than what's just been thrown out there.
I think we should start, hand it over to the personnel committee, and there's no action tonight on it. And maybe the first place we start, Doc, is get a range of costs, what it would cost.
I can certainly see that.
I'd like to see maybe for November, the action, one way or the other, personnel committee brings forward whoever they find for potential candidates for the bed, and then we have the information. And then I think we finally need to do, our mid-year duty and have a summative evaluation of the superintendent halfway through, instead of throwing everything at them at the end of the year.
I like that. What if we had personnel committee give a list of firms and quotes and what they would offer us, what can they do that we can't do? And then maybe we evaluate the evaluation form that we would do mid-year.
They maybe would have one too,
I didn't mind the metrics that were on the evaluation form.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It's just so subjective to what my 3 is and what your 3 is and what your 3 is.
Right.
And what competent means to me and you. That the subjectivity, I think the metrics in it were pretty good, or the benchmarks, what we rated on. But just coming to a consensus of what those words mean, what the numbers mean, what a 1 means versus a 2 or a 3.
And, also, I think, whoever we're evaluating should know as soon as possible what we're using to evaluate, what we're evaluating them on.
What the metrics are, the measurements.
So that they can know what they'll be evaluated with. So, I know that, Mitch is familiar with the evaluation form we used for Luke, and I don't have a strong opinion about deviating far from that, but if we're gonna make significant changes, we should communicate that to whoever's being evaluated, well in advance of the evaluation actually happening mid-year, say,
Isn't the posting still in fact, on the weekend website, Jeff? Are we still getting applicants, or
No.
it's been pulled?
It's been closed.
It's been closed, okay. All right. And
Was
was there?
sent out telling
Okay,
them that
perfect.
we'll be doing something in the future.
So when is personnel committee? Who is on that, or?
Kelly is the chair. I'm trying to think with it.
And we can all set up there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Are you having a motion to send it to personnel?
Are we able to under this part of the agenda too?
Yeah, I would think if you're talking about search firms, so that would be referred to as
We're not
subcommittee.
making any decision, we're just sending it to the committee.
Yeah, if you think it's in order, I will make a motion. Do we send it to personnel?
I'll second.
So, review of search firms and the superintendent evaluation form, would that be okay?
The evaluation.
Any other discussion?
And Andy did say maybe to have something in place by November, or a decision by the board.
To me, that's an appropriate, if we're going
To bring something back to the board.
Right.
For action.
For the November board meeting.
And we would have a mid-year evaluation, I assume, a semester. We could post in December.
That's one of
We
the-
would not need to make a decision until the evaluation's done. I think in fairness to Mitch, that has to be done before we move forward with the decision.
That's a big advantage of having an interim superintendent, that it's going to give us more time to go through the process.
So you want to add November, or you don't?
I think November's appropriate for action on that. That way we know which direction we're going. And at that time, we can discuss when it's proper to post. I think if you post now, you get a lot of people that are excited about their school for the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I
In
agree. We should
December,
post now.
they're considering their careers, and we have an appropriate amount of time
Yeah.
to evaluate the job that she's doing.
And in the past, I mean, just to update the board, the last superintendent we hired, there were multiple organizations involved. There was a parent group, all organizations, but groups, there was an employee group.
I think we should totally do that.
Yeah, I do too.
The other thing is, if you open up application now, aren't most of the people that are, you might say, great candidates taken?
Well, I'm not saying it now.
Oh, okay, that's saying,
Yeah,
if
I'm
we do
thinking
that
get
now.
it posted around the first of the year.
Oh, okay. So it'll be for the following
Right.
school year.
Correct.
And not name the new superintendent until toward the end of this school year, which would be in May at some point.
Right, yeah, I understand now.
Any other comments? Do you want to call the question, please?
So it's to review the evaluation and have a summary of vetting firms to bring to the board for an action item in November.
And the cost of those firms, or the cost of that service.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Basting.
Okay, moving to items for action. Budget reallocation funds.
So this came out of our finance committee meeting that we had after our last meeting. We looked at the budget that we had currently in place and the surplus we had sitting there after all the contracts were approved. And it was roughly $96,766. And we came up with splitting it to various reallocations to the different schools for some of the stuff we cut from the initial budget to give them classroom masks, stuff like that. We proposed adding the 3,000 back into options because that was just an account shift that Amanda had made and she ended up losing it because it seemed like a new request. We moved 6,000 to district for Marcia for some contract issues, added what was left to district for district-wide for Mitch's use, and added 10,000 to event workers, which we had eliminated to at least put some money back to that and give us something to work off of. So that's kind of where we came out of that meeting as a group recommending that we allocate, which would balance our budget prior to the third Friday number, which sounds like it could be an exciting result for us to potentially have a surplus. But this would get us back to a zero prior to that. So I would recommend on behalf of the finance committee reallocating these to these accounts.
That
Yes, I will move that we.
I got a question. I'll second. The event workers, the prior number there is, that is more than.
That is the full athletics.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
No.
That's not just
Yeah,
the
that's not-
ticketers.
That's not just the event workers.
Well, if that's the case, then I think.
She had no
Yeah,
problem
it
finding
was-
that
And
word.
then we'll start taking
Snap.
tickets.
They got 10 more.
That was just the account, Marcia looked up the total account number, what
Yeah.
it was, to what it would be with adding the 10,000.
So that's salaries for coaches.
Yes, yeah.
Officials.
That's the
Officials.
whole
Officials.
budget.
Ticket takers,
Yeah,
yeah.
we added 10,000 to
Right.
help cover.
Your co-op expenses with
Yeah.
Dodgeville.
And we have talked at a future, towards the end of the year, finance committee meeting of maybe looking at revenue versus expense there so that we have an idea of, maybe we're cutting from an account that actually is self-sufficient and deserves.
I got to stay for this meeting. I really liked what they proposed when they gave the money back, then the elementary school would prioritize their needs and middle school, so they would take that money and give it to what they consider the top priorities. So I thought it was really kind of a nice way to do it.
Do you know, like, an example, Mitch, of the elementary 25,000? What would be some programs, some equipment?
Potentially, I know they put in for like a small Chromebook lab.
Okay.
That might be something, but this will be, the staff can actually make proposals to Matt and say, well, here's this particular program hits the greatest number of students, and it kind of goes back that way instead of saying, well, we're going to add 300 back to your classroom budget and 150 so you can get, that workbook. This allows for a much broader support of education for the entire building.
Right, and you will have the final say on it, Mitch, before they, I mean, just so, I'm just thinking out loud. Will they come to you, they'll bring their request to you, or do they get the authority to spend that money?
Yes, I mean, it goes through a series of checks. If it's a staff member, they put in the budget request, it goes to the building principal, it goes to Marcia, and then it ends up, in my role as the superintendent, it ends up with me as the final approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other conversation?
I'll second.
Larry had already seconded.
Oh, sorry.
Bush.
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Approval of the boost agreement.
I'd just like to interject for a second. I hope to do this on a monthly basis. Here's basically after the first month of the school year. And if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, we still have basically 83% of our budget left. Beginning of the school year, August, September, a lot of money is spent out. We spent roughly 16.4% of the district budget in, starting at the top, it's teacher salary and then benefits. Line 3 is the 300 series purchase services. If you have a contract with somebody coming in, 400 is non-capital, 5 capital objects, 6 debt retirement, 7 is insurance, 8 is interfund transfer. So at the end of the year, or you see sometimes in the budget, it's a transfer from Fund 10 to Fund 27, from general fund to special ed fund. That's what 8 is that interfund transfer is basically from one fund within the district to another fund to help support it and make it whole. And then 9 is basically dues and fees that mine have throughout the district. So there'll be a lot of activity here at the beginning of the year, then it will slow down, and then it will start to ramp up again in the spring before the deadlines say you can't spend any more money will come. It'll be crazy up to that point again, then it will stop. But just so that you're aware, currently we've spent 16.42% of our total budget for this particular school year. And I'd kind of like to do this on a monthly basis.
This would be great to do monthly, and if we could potentially, if any of these spike in a given month,
Why?
if we could get, if purchase services jumps 200,000, obviously we paid somebody, and maybe it's a parent in AP, but if we could just get, what those spikes are for, so we have a better understanding of.
And Mitch, do you have easy access to these reports from last school year?
I would ask Marcia to see if she could go back and get them on a month-to-month. I'm not sure if she would be able to print them out.
Yeah, but I mean, if you've already been making these printouts and they're already archived, it'd be nice to see if we're on track from, say, last year, or we're spending more, we're on a higher, higher spend.
Was it done last year?
Yeah.
Or could she retrieve with that, or was it done last year? Or?
That's what he's gonna check on
Oh,
that.
I was gonna see.
That's a good idea.
Okay, sorry, Boost. This is our telepresence course. This particular machine with these two pieces is a telepresence room. We have one across on the back side of this room. There are a couple of portables, and the Boost Consortium is a combination of Kickapoo, Riverdale, Highland, Pecatonic, and Mineral Point. Riverdale is in essence, holder of the contract, so our portion to be part of the Boost Consortium is listed on here. It's actually $2,700. I just had a meeting with the other administrators from the 4 other districts. So we have this bill for $2,700. A portion of this will offset that next bill that you see there where it says a part, or plus a one-time additional fee for Marco setup. Marco is going to be our service provider for the equipment. They've gone through 3 other companies in the short time we've been part of the Boost Consortium. And the thought process is that Marco offers us the best support, allows for the best carryover of funds, so that if we don't use, basically each school is going to get, through their contribution, a pot of money to use for services. If we don't use anything out of that pot, it stays there and it's there available to us the next year, or the year after, or the year after. Now, some of our equipment is, some of our mobile units are a little bit older and might need to either be replaced or fixed. They will send somebody out to work with us. So this is just an ongoing contract that we have to have approved on a yearly basis to be a part of the Boost Consortium and this 60, they call it a 6630, I think it's 660301 or something of that nature. So I would be looking for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the Boost Consortium.
Second.
I'll second.
I think it's already been paid when I went through the bills paid.
It's waiting, we're just
Okay,
waiting.
'cause I
Yeah,
saw-
nothing has been paid, and they're all right
Oh,
here.
okay, because I saw it in here, I thought, oh, it's already paid.
Not trying to slip one by.
Oh, okay.
All the checks right here,
Yeah, when I
so
went
if they
through it, I
wouldn't
thought,
be approved,
how'd
they
that
don't
get in
get,
there?
they don't
Okay,
get
now I
sent until
understand.
tomorrow.
All right.
Just as part of discussion, I mean, is there just an estimate on how many students use these services, or how many
Currently,
classes taken?
currently we have, I want to say it's 10, but I would double check. We have 10 students taking a Spanish 4 class, because Jenny Wallin is on an overload, and we have a nice number of students that are actually in Spanish 5, trying to teach a 4-5 combination with those numbers that she would have is just, it's undoable. And because we have a good reputation with the Spanish teacher in Riverdale, she was willing to take on our 4s, and if they ever get some 5s, we would take the 5s. So we have a first hour class with kids taking Spanish 4 through Riverdale schools right now. Last year, we taught 2 classes. We taught a psychology class and our AP Calc class. We delivered that curriculum to different students, Highland, and I want to say Riverdale, I think, were consumers of our teachers' knowledge. And then we also use this in the spring of the year. We can use this for the UW Platteville Lit class that students are taking through Platteville. They just stay in the building and take the course from instructor at Platteville.
This allows us to use the Southwest Tech courses as well, doesn't it?
Correct, yeah. Amanda talked about an additional program. It's called the 2020 program. It was trying to get 20 people enrolled in a program that would get them to become a nurse by the year 2020. And you go through this program, you are in Southwest Tech's nursing program. You're not on a waiting list. Right now, if kids going through 4 years of high school, they can go to Southwest Tech. They can enroll and try to get into the nursing school, and they'll just be put on a wait list. They can start taking some of their gen ed classes, but they're not in the nursing program. But this program allows students fast track in. They'll actually go in to Southwest Tech and only have to take 1 year school to get their RN associate's degree.
And they're working on it. I think they said it down at the CISA meeting, they're working on a 19 credit gen ed program where you could, for 2 or 3 semesters, you could graduate with 19 gen eds. And there's a spot where you can go where it tells you which universities accept those specific classes to cross off your gen eds. So
right.
you
That's
could
the
be a
start college
semester-
now.
Semester of gen ed ahead, or out of the way before you graduate high school. So
Right.
Through Southwest Tech.
Yeah. It's intro to psych, intro to sociology, college writing. There's several other courses that you can pick up through that. I can't remember, they changed the names on them so much. I don't know if it's called Get Ahead now or something like that, but through high school you could walk into Southwest Tech with X number of credits And the nursing program there, this surprised me, they were trying to work with Viterbo, because Viterbo is like one of, you know, UW-Madison and Viterbo are like the nursing programs in the state. And you go through the 2020-21 year at Southwest Tech, you get your associates, and they were trying to get it set up with 1 year at Viterbo. You could have your bachelor's degree in nursing. That would be a tremendous cost saving for students.
It has been set up. My wife went through that program. So she got her bachelor's through Southwest Tech with Viterbo. So I know it's in effect.
So we're trying to provide as many opportunities. You know, one of the things they talk about at the PAC meeting, it's you try to eliminate that poverty gap. You know, a student with poverty, I don't have any opportunities. Well, you have an opportunity to leave here and go to Southwest Tech for 1 year and get a nursing degree, and you can come back to Mineral Point and live here. Both places, I'm sure, are looking for nurses all the time. And Southwest Health is giving out scholarships. They mentioned that they're giving out 16 $1,000 scholarships for people that are in this program. So $1,000 going into Southwest Tech would certainly help in that final year of that programming. So I think there's opportunities for not just our students, but students all over Southwest Wisconsin, but certainly any of our students have an equal opportunity to that.
Okay, call the question, please.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
Basting.
Yes. Business services, credit cards, statement, and approval of bills.
So you're going through the bills now, Jeff? I'd like to just ask a question. There's Knudsen Construction on the press box, $1,700. And just to be clear, I thought that was a booster to and why would the school pay for that?
It was in and out, basically.
Oh, I
It
see.
was the Booster Club gave the money, and the money was then sent out to
Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear. So that was not from school funds, but from booster funds.
Correct.
And then what is TAHER? T-A?
Taher?
TAHER, yeah.
They are our food service.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, I know you had asked the question, Dr. Lindsay, I don't know if you saw on the credit card, Marcia applied
Right.
our
Yeah, the
points towards our bill, so it was
Yeah.
a nice savings.
Because they're
on the
really
bill.
building up before.
We got a $2,600 credit
Wow.
based
Okay.
on those points, so that was kind of a nice.
Mhm. Oh, I see it here, yeah, 2,605.
Someone like to make a motion to approve both?
Motion. I had another question on the bills. When they're attending conferences in Madison, do you normally allow for them to stay overnight in Madison when it's within driving distance?
This was the PLC conference this summer, and it was an option to, they could either drive and get mileage back and forth, or they could stay overnight.
I see.
When I went, and Vicky's here, we went to Milwaukee, you know, the opportunity to meet with your teacher teams.
Mhm. I'm not complaining, but you know, some outfits require that if it's within so many miles, you drive back and forth to the meeting rather than be paid for staying overnight. So I
Correct.
just wondered what the policy was in that regard.
Right. And people were reimbursed only for the mileage.
I see.
The district picked up the hotel room.
Okay. Done with my questions.
Have a motion, does anyone want a second?
Who motion, I'm sorry.
I did.
Dr.
Okay.
Nugent. Second, anybody?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Question, please.
Dunn,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
Basting.
Abstain. Okay. Can we get a motion to go into closed session for performance evaluation and awarding of sick days to employees are the two topics we're going to be discussing.
I'll make the motion to go into closed session.
We have a second? those in favor, signify